and everything else that goes on. So make it too big to rig. Remember my statement, too big to rig, make it too big to rig, and watch those machines. We have to pass the Save America Act to defend American elections. Well, you saw what happened. They caught thousands of votes in New Jersey where illegal aliens were allowed to vote, thousands and thousands of votes.
To be very clear, that is a lie. Thousands of undocumented immigrants did not vote in New Jersey. Trump is exploiting a DMV software glitch in the state that led to about 400 non-citizens casting ballots. Governor Mikey Sherrill has made it clear those votes did not sway any race. And yet Trump is now lying about that error to pressure Congress to pass his voter suppression bill. And speaking of, House Republicans just slid voting restrictions into a bill that was supposed to focus on banning members of Congress from stock trading, something important. Y'all probably care about it. That bill is not expected to pass in the Senate.
With some new polling from Fox News, which shows which political party Americans trust more to handle key issues. And voters are saying that Democrats are doing a better job on income inequality, healthcare, inflation, the economy, and foreign policy. Republicans hold some advantages on crime and national security, although even there, it is closely divided. And get this, when it comes to immigration, the GOP had an 8-point edge just a few months ago. But today, Democrats are preferred. 76%, meanwhile, of those polled see the economy as only fair or even poor, while just 24% say it's excellent or good. Meanwhile, 68% of Democrats say they are extremely motivated to vote in November's midterms. That's an 11-point edge on the percentage of Republicans who say the same.
I'm at this a little bit differently because I'm going to give the American people a great deal more credit writ large based off of both the arguments. I really believe the only people who are buying the BS coming out of Donald Trump's mouth right now are people who are in that small corner that's left in the room for Donald Trump to go hang out in. The vast majority of Americans have long since, certainly since 2021, but even more so in the last 18 months, come to the realization that this administration is not good for your political or economic health in this country. And I think that that's borne out by the polling. Mm-hmm. If the president had that kind of cachet that he could still convince American people to believe things like that, I think his numbers would be higher. So my belief is that people are much more attuned to the lie around voting, the lies around 2020. And I think that sets up well two things. One, the problem that Republicans have going into this fall, and two, the opportunities Democrats, I'm still waiting on y'all, to execute on to close the deal with the voters between now and November.
It doesn't make any sense. There is an alternative. This is a badly structured deal that could lead Saudi Arabia to enrich uranium and create a nuclear bomb. Right next door to Saudi Arabia is a separate it's a civilian nuclear program in the United Arab Emirates. It was a deal negotiated by the Biden administration, and the UAE has no way to enrich uranium. It's very simple. They get enriched uranium is delivered to their nuclear power plants from other countries. From Russia, some possibly could, I'm not sure if some comes from the United States or not, but that's a simple way to do this where there is no need for, the UAE to have any way to enrich uranium, which if it could lead to a bomb. So why would the Trump administration agree that Saudi Arabia, Prince Buzzsaw, as he's called, and that's a reference to the fact that MBS, ordered the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was dismembered. And given Saudi Arabia's long record of human rights abuses, and also they haven't been the closest ally in this war, why make this deal? Why does Saudi Arabia get this special treatment? And one suggestion is that it has to do, and maybe this isn't fair, but that the Saudi Public Investment Fund invested $2 billion in the president's son-in-law's firm. That occurred soon after Jared Kushner left the first Trump administration. And there are American companies who get business from this deal. But it's, again, this sort of, frankly, just bad, incompetent policy. So maybe there's a short-term gain from some American companies, but you're now creating a situation where Saudi Arabia gets to enrich uranium that could lead it to a nuclear bomb. And this is going to upset, lastly, Israelis. They don't want to see Saudi Arabia having this ability.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan has referred former special counsel Jack Smith to the Department of Justice for a potential criminal investigation, accusing Smith of intentionally making false statements to Congress last year. The Ohio Republican yesterday sent a letter to Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, claiming there is, quote, strong evidence that Smith made willfully and intentionally false statements in a closed-door deposition last December. Specifically, Jordan pointed to Smith's answers to questions about whether prosecutors obtained phone records of members of Congress during his investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. During the deposition, Smith testified that he did not seek search warrants for the contents of any text messages from members of Congress during his probe and only sought toll records. But Jordan noted in his letter that documents produced this month by the DOJ shows Smith's team obtained text messages from 44 lawmakers. Smith's attorney responded by calling the referral meritless and based on a spurious claim. A congressional criminal referral is a non-binding request asking the DOJ to investigate whether someone has violated federal law and to determine whether further action is needed. The DOJ is not required to pursue charges or even open an investigation.
Though, before we go, John, this case is a perfect example of why any person who finds themselves in the crosshairs of this Department of Justice in one of these retaliatory investigations, and I consider myself among them, I am currently I have received a subpoena in an investigation. The message you should take away from this is do not cooperate with the government. Do not provide answers under oath. Do not provide answers to Congress. Do not provide answers to questions to agents or to a grand jury, because this Department of Justice will take what you say and apparently what you don't say and try to use that against you, all in pursuit of the president's revenge mission.
Most of those strikes are going into two major cities, Bandar Abbas and Isfahan. And having been one of the people who's done wargaming against Iran decades ago, those are the two things you want to encircle. And I don't mean to get geeky on you here, but Bandar Abbas, the city next to the Straits, is surrounded by mountains. And it is not only a major port city, but a major military city. So I think the operational plan is to contain that city so there's no movement in and out of Bandar Abbas. You see it there. What you don't see is the Zagros and the Janao mountains that surround that city. If you knock out a couple of bridges and a couple of roads, you have the potential for trapping the military in that city. Now, okay, that's good, but the other bad thing, and this is the complicated part of it, is those are all mostly dual-use facilities. And without seeing the targeting list that the Air Force and the Navy are using, you can't really tell what are dual-use facilities versus military infrastructure. So, I'm truthfully very skeptical that they're avoiding all dual-use facilities. And I'll give you an example. If you hit a water system or a water tank, if it provides water to 10,000 civilians and 100 military personnel, that's not a dual-use facility. So again, you have to dive a whole lot deeper into what the targeting list looks like. But it seems to me that they are putting that city and the other city of Isfahan, which is farther to the north, under an extreme amount of pressure. And it's not helping the civilians of Iran like President Trump said he was going to do months ago.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Thursday, 23 July, year of our Lord, 2026. I think the 12th night of bombing, and you heard there at the end with the general, yes, they are going after both the nuclear, kind of the center of the nuclear industry for the Persians, and also their big naval base down right there at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. And there may be some collateral damage, but these are two high military targets that the president and the CENTCOM in the punch list of what they're doing next, and they're obviously going up the escalatory ladder here. I don't think the bombing is going to stop. No word of any real discussions. They were trying to have a 10-day reprieve for some sort of 10-day, interim ceasefire they're going to do. I think that's kind of overcome by events right now. Why? It looks like the Houthis have joined the war. And in fact, I've got the Truth Social. I'll get it up maybe in the next block. The president has just come out and made a statement about the Houthis trying to block the Red Sea and the entrance or the run-up to the Suez Canal. And he's putting them on notice that, hey, he's going to hold the Iranians responsible for bringing the Houthis in, but he's also putting the Houthis on notice about all this. I want to thank today's sponsor because it's going to be a little truncated today. We are going to go to the White House at 11 o'clock. I think they've rescheduled. Traditionally, the press briefings are at 1. Caroline Leavitt is back. They're going to do one at 11 o'clock this morning from the press briefing room. We want to take all of that because there's so many things happening, and we understand she's going to take questions. So this, I'm sure it's going to be quite antagonistic as Caroline's now back, and they don't get any better than Caroline at the podium in handling the rabid mainstream media. And of course, they're rabid. We played right there. Finally, Jack Smith got a criminal referral. I think this is the first of many, but you got to start somewhere. The question is there already been a grand jury impaneled? They're looking through Jack Smith's other crimes, which are voluminous. Mike Davis is going to be here to break this all down as finally somebody gets off the dime on trying to hold the deep state accountable. I want to thank Birch Gold. Take your phone out, text Bannon at 989898. Here's what that's. If you have an IRA or a 401k right now, you can roll it over in a tax-deferred method to get a gold IRA. You got to talk to Philip Patrick and team. Text that number. You get all the information. It's totally free, no commitment whatsoever. You get to talk to Philip Patrick and the team about why you want to own as part of your portfolio, particularly for retirement. Why do you want to have part of that portfolio in physical gold, since gold's been a hedge for mankind for, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years? And with the turbulence in financial markets, in fact, Eric Bolling is going to join us later to talk about oil, but particularly talk about the absolute implosion of SpaceX and what that means for exchanges, what it means for the stock market, what it means for the company, all of it. Also, Chapter, the feedback we've gotten from the folks that have talked to Chapter, 845 War Room. They set up a hotline. It could not be simpler. If you have any question about your Medicare plan, right? And I know people have it because it's so complicated. In fact, it's set up to be complicated so the insurance companies can rake in the bulk of the $100 billion of fees out there. They never want to cut you a break. The only way you can make rational decisions is to see all the data. Chapter is a data company. It's not did not start as kind of a healthcare advisory company or people that came from the healthcare profession. They came to break down the enormous complexity of Medicare. 845 War Room. There's no obligation. It's totally free. You get a free consultation, and then they take it from there. And the feedback we've gotten is tremendous. They've already saved the War Room posse over $1 million of fees regarding Medicare. So go check it out.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you are behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. I want to thank our sponsors for bearing with us for Charlie Kirk. All these things are happening, either rallies or bilats or now a press conference. We think it's very important for you to hear it direct so that the MAGA War Room posse can make up their own minds, come to their own conclusions about see what you see. I want to thank Home Title Act, by the way. So many people are giving special offers. Make sure you at least contact them and weigh and measure it, so that if you don't do it, it's a conscious act. It's not like, oh, I just forgot about it. HometitleLock.com, a promo code Steve25 to commemorate the 250th birthday of the birth of this great nation, the greatest nation in the history of mankind. They're giving you 25% off a two-year subscription to the $1 million triple lock protection that will protect your home title from being monetized by either AI in a cyber attack or bad guys, rogues. After the news we've gotten about the breaking out of containment of these AI models now more than ever, I think you at least ought to talk to Natalie Dominguez and the team over at HometitleLock.com. Promo code Steve25 for 25% off over 2 years. Just pennies a day to give you peace of mind. I want to replay Jonathan Lemire. We had Politico on yesterday, but they're polling about MAGA support of this war. But Fox News came out, and Fox News are not the greatest pollers. I don't think they're the greatest polling in the world, but this is directionally where it's seen, particularly what the answers the Democrats have been putting up are pretty much worse than socialism. It's Marxism. Let's hear Jonathan Lemire over at Morning Joe go through the Fox poll.
With some new polling from Fox News, which shows which political party Americans trust more to handle key issues. And voters are saying that Democrats are doing a better job on income inequality, healthcare, inflation, the economy, and foreign policy. Republicans hold some advantages on crime and national security, although even there, it is closely divided. And get this, when it comes to immigration, the GOP had an 8-point edge just a few months ago. But today, Democrats are preferred. 76%, meanwhile, of those polled see the economy as only fair or even poor, while just 24% say it's excellent or good. Meanwhile, 68% of Democrats say they are extremely motivated to vote in November's midterms. That's an 11-point edge on the percentage of Republicans who say the same.
So think about that for a second. Think of the answers that the Democrats have been giving. They've always been radical. They kind of put a happy face on it of a moderate. It's like the guy Cooper in North Carolina. You couldn't be more radical, but he gets a big old Southern boy. I'm just football, God, church. I'm Roy Cooper. I'm one of you. And nothing can be farther from the truth. You see this happen all the time, particularly in the South. And they try to put a veneer of moderation on what could not be more radical. Neil, tell me about, you went to the South yesterday, to Georgia. You were there for the rally. Hit some high points of the rally. President Trump, when he talked about voter security and voter integrity, of course, last night, MSNBC went absolutely nuts on that here he is trying to steal the election, et cetera. But what was his economic message to folks down there, sir?
Well, the economic message is that, I guess the meta message is that there's coming communism and government control, and everything that communism touches turns to excrement, which I do not believe was on the teleprompter. But he also just really made the point about how his one big beautiful bill took away taxes on tips and overtime and Social Security. And he also talked about the Trump accounts, which was really the keystone of the address, because it vests these youngsters who can get these Trump accounts. They not only are economically invested, they become emotionally invested in the economy. And so that was his message. But I have to tell you, his biggest applause line when he said the Senate must pass the Save America Act. Like, people just jumped out of their shoes to cheer him on for that. So if anybody in Washington thinks that Americans don't care about the Save America Act, they are completely wrong. And Republican leaders should pay attention if they're concerned about turnout. The emotional power of the Save America Act for turnout is very strong, and you could feel it in the room, Steve.
Neil McCabe, you've just nailed it. This is the intensity gap I keep talking about. And what they're doing now, thooning these guys, I think they're turning President Trump into a lame duck, that it's going to assist them. This is why I keep saying, I said, hey, as grim as the news is in the House, I actually think you can hold serve when you break it down like we've done with DeGrasse and others, when you actually break it down to those districts. Let's say there's 15 to maybe 20, those districts that will determine who gets to 218. You can actually make a case that if we highly focused in those congressional districts, you may be able to hold serve. It ain't going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy, as I always say to people, tough, but doable. But that is coming in. Now, the Senate, and they keep saying, well, you get the math of the Senate. I say, hey, look, I see no enthusiasm for the Senate at all. I think people are totally turned off. Now, Neil, what they're doing, and we're going to try to get, if we don't get Wade Miller, who may have gone up to Capitol Hill about this, and look, I appreciate what the White House, James Braid and these guys are doing up on the legislative side in the White House. They are trying to think through any modality or methodology they can to take what the House has passed and trying to get it passed through the Senate. They're actually going now to just take parts of it, maybe parts of it, like voter ID and other parts. Although the whole bill itself, when you look at it, it's got the approval of anywhere from, 67, 2/3 of the American people to 80%. In a country that determines elections now by 1,000 votes on each side, these are landslide numbers. I want you to just hit rewind. When you were there yesterday, in all the speech, he talked about the war, he talked about everything. What was the thing that brought people to their feet?
It was the Save America Act. I mean, there was just no question. And it shocked me because usually you expect these big applause lines when he talks about, transgenderism and, and obviously when he talked about the troops and obviously he talked about, with the family that flew back to Georgia with him on Air Force One, very powerful and emotional. And I was surprised, being a creature of Washington, to be out in the provinces and see the people are actually tracking that the Save America Act is the whole ball game, Steve.
Well, no, this is what, the War Room then's done its job, and here's why. The address last Thursday night and what's come off of that, and then what Solomon and Pulte are gonna put out further, is a number one priority for the MAGA base, for the Trump base. And this is a base turnout election. This is not a persuasion election. This is a midterm election, with Trump theoretically not on the ballot, although we say for the Democrats he's definitely on the ballot, is that people, they don't want to spend a ton of time relitigating 2020. I know we do here at the War Room. We think it's very important what went on, the illegitimate regime. But at least what they want to do is take those lessons from the stolen election of 2020, and they must be applied now. That's why they manifested itself in the Save America Act. And the president, who often is criticized or questioned about the ability to stay on message, he's been relentless. He's been like a howitzer on this. He says every time for months and months and months, and that's what's so shocking about the Senate thwarting him. Is it your opinion, looking at Georgia, which is another battleground state, that unless we make some movement, a real movement that is not performative, right, or not just optics on Save America, we will never get to the intensity that the Democrats have in the Trump derangement syndrome? As we play every cold open here, is to show you the Trump derangement syndrome and how much they hate him and what they're prepared to do to remove him from office and stop the MAGA movement and Trumpism. Neil McCabe.
People want to know that what they're fighting for is what the president is fighting for. If he's all in, and he's moving forward, and let's say he loses a vote, but if he forces a vote and he takes it to the ninth inning, people will say, will feel validated. But if they get the sense that the president doesn't care and the White House doesn't care and the Senate doesn't care and the Republicans in Congress don't care, then they say, well, what am I doing this for? I went back to midterm elections going back to 1960. There's always a drop-off for the party that wins the White House in the midterm. It goes, if it's 20 to 30%, the party can maybe hold on. As soon as you have a drop-off of more than 30%, you go into the 40s, that's when you have those landslides in the House where you lose, 20, 30, 40, 60 seats like the Democrats saw in 2010. But it's important to remember, Rahm Emanuel, Barack Obama's chief of staff, told President Obama, if you go forward with Obamacare, you will lose the House, you will lose the Senate. Obama said, I don't care. And guess what? Obamacare is still the law of the land. And over time, the Democrats took the House and the Senate back. It's, what are we doing here? Why do we send you people to Washington? The people yesterday, they heard a president who had energy and passion, who was locked in, and they want to follow that guy to victory. And I'll say it again because it really surprised me. The Save America Act really, really motivated people. They jumped out of their chairs. Steve.
This is what we've been telling people. You can tell it from the war room chats. You can tell it from the audience, the intensity of the audience about this. Also might remind people when Obama was warned by Emanuel, lost the House and the Senate, he went on TV the next day from the White House. You know what he said? Because the first question, did you learn a lesson? Yeah, here's how I learned a lesson. I'm president of the United States, and I'm going to use executive power to push through my agenda, right? And he got nasty, and this thing rolled. President has emergency powers. He has he has ability to do executive orders. I think he's laid the predicate for a national security emergency about the elections in the midterms. No, people don't want to hear that, but it's a reality. And I think we're coming very close to taking that predicate and taking action upon it. Short commercial break. Neil McCabe will stick in the White House. Mike Davis, the Vice President, joins us.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. The engine room out in Arizona informs me that was Obama's famous quote, I got a phone and a pen. He didn't back down at all. In fact, he got crazier after he lost that on actions, and we had to fight that. Remember, Breitbart, we had to fight that every single day. I want to go to Mike. I'm going to get back to Neil McCabe at the White House in a moment. A lot to go through, particularly about setting the predicate for why, if all of these variations on Save America, if they don't happen in time, because some of these guys are saying, hey, we'll get to it when we get back from August recess, right? It's not enough time to implement. It's got to be done like now. It should have been done months ago, but even now, maybe you could execute. But if not, you're going to have to go to a national security emergency executive order. My next guest is not a fan of that. Mike Davis, the Viceroy. We'll talk about that later. But I want to play Neil McCabe. So finally, Jack Smith gets a criminal referral by Jim Jordan over to Todd Blanche and the guys at Maine Justice about, perjuring himself. There's a lot more to get, and I'm going to ask Davis about that. But Neil McCabe, they get McCabe, I think it's McCabe up right away, about what the lessons are that they are taking from this criminal referral. Let's play it, and we'll bring in the Viceroy.
Though, before we go, John, this case is a perfect example of why any person who finds themselves in the crosshairs of this Department of Justice in one of these retaliatory investigations, and I consider myself among them, I am currently I have received a subpoena in an investigation. The message you should take away from this is do not cooperate with the government. Do not provide answers under oath. Do not provide answers to Congress. Do not provide answers to questions to agents or to a grand jury, because this Department of Justice will take what you say and apparently what you don't say and try to use that against you, all in pursuit of the president's revenge mission.
Mike Davis, that's McCabe. Remember, McCabe was all the one wetting himself after right before President Trump won and right after he was thinking of leaving for a foreign country. Of course, nothing's happened to him. It's so frustrating. But talk to me about the Jack Smith situation. What did Jim Jordan actually do? And you saw McCabe right there in that whole crowd. They're just going to say, screw you. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in any of this. Mike Davis, your thoughts?
Well, Jim Jordan did a criminal referral yesterday to the Justice Department on Biden special counsel Jack Smith. Jack Smith, as we know, was this rogue political partisan operative, this Scud missile launched by Biden to try to take out Trump. And as part of Jack Smith's investigation of Trump and his aides and his allies, Jack Smith subpoenaed the text messages, the content of the text messages from 44 members of Congress, including 20 senators and 24 House members, including the Speaker of the House, the number two in the House. I mean, it's a big deal to subpoena a members of congressional members' telephone records, their text messages. They did it for 44 of them, and then Jack Smith didn't apparently have the taint teams in place, the filter teams in place, to make sure they're doing a review for privilege, which is a big problem. And then Jack Smith got asked about what he did in those investigations as part of his December 17th, 2025 deposition in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And Jack Smith, according to Jim Jordan, the chairman's criminal referral, lied. He provided materially false statements to Congress, to the House, because Jack Smith said that he only got the toll records of these phone calls, meaning two from phone number duration and not the content. Well, according to this criminal referral, that is a lie. Jack Smith lied because he did get 44 members of Congress's text messages. And so that's why we have this criminal referral. When you have these criminal referrals, I've helped draft these for then Chairman Chuck Grassley, the Senate Judiciary Chairman, when I worked on the Kavanaugh confirmation, and we set criminal referrals. When you lie to congressional investigators like this, like Jack Smith is alleged to have done here, according to Jim Jordan's letter, you could be charged with perjury because it's under sworn testimony under his deposition, presuming it was a sworn deposition. You could be charged with false statements, 1,001 false statements. You can also be charged with obstruction of a congressional investigation. And if you did this with others, you can be charged with conspiracy. So this is a very serious criminal referral, and the Justice Department should and must treat this seriously.
Well, Mike, it is very serious. I mean, and the lie is serious, but he lied because what they did is so over the top. My question is, you saw McCabe just right up in your grill as soon as it happens. The frustration with the War Room Posse, who are obviously huge fans of the Viceroy in Article 3 and others, and obviously the president, is it appears that when something happens to Congress, immediate action is taken, and we're kind of on a path to get this thing sorted. Yet McCabe, who sat there and cried, I think it was on CNN, cried on CNN right after President Trump won. He says, we're having discussions about leaving the country. He's not only walking around scot-free, he's in our grill saying, hey, guess what? Here's our plan. We're not gonna cooperate with anybody. Screw you. Is it take only something that happens to the aristocracy up on Capitol Hill for action to be taken? Or are we going to get serious about getting guys like McCabe off the streets, sir?
I hear you, and I agree. I know that Joe DeGenova is aggressively pursuing the grand conspiracy down in the Southern District of Florida, according to these news reports. But we need to get moving. We need to get indicting. There's no question that Jack Smith should be indicted and face criminal prosecution and put him in prison, because what Jack Smith did is he politicized and weaponized our Justice Department to take out a political enemy, Donald Trump, right, and his aides and his allies, and he went after members of Congress. This is a serious violation of the separation of powers. You can't have the Justice Department just willy-nilly spy on members of Congress, 44 of them, including senators, including House leaders. And there has to be accountability here. And frankly, I don't care if a D.C. jury ends up finding him not guilty at the end of this process. I don't care if it's a hung jury. I want Jack Smith to go through this process, because what he did was criminal. He must face severe legal, political, and financial consequences for it to send a deterrent to these other lawfare Democrats, these other bad actors like McCabe, the former deputy director of the FBI. So they understand that if you do this, you will face consequences. If they get away with this under the Trump Justice Department, the Democrats will come back mercilessly the next time Democrats control the White House.
It's insane. If we don't put a flamethrower to this, they will think, hey, we did something that was terrible and we got away with it. Now they're going to double and triple down. It's so obvious. That's why I think people are just going crazy about this. Let me just pivot for a second. Neil McCabe was actually in Georgia yesterday, the president's speech, and he said, hey, look, and a lot of applause lines and a lot of support for the president. The one that was thunderous was the Save America Act. He was a little surprised. He says, hey, I've been hanging around the White House too much. When you get out there to the hinterland, this is what people are focused on. Now we got the Senate. You know, the House has passed it, but there's all kind of perturbations. They're going to take pieces and attach here, try to attach here, try to attach here. What does it take, Mr. Article 3 project, for us to get the attention of the United States Senate to say, look, the intensity gap between Democrats and Republicans are noticeable in this midterm. And this is of the base. But this solves it. What is it going to take in your mind for us to convince the Senate they got to move off the dime on this thing, sir?
Well, it's the War Room Posse lighting up both of their home state senators. Go to article3project.org, take action, and tell both of your home state senators, Democrat and Republican, to stop letting illegals illegally vote in our elections. They have to pass the Save America Act. We are seeing in New Jersey where the governor admits that 6,600 illegals were on their voter rolls. 400 of them voted, according to the Democrats. We know it's thousands and thousands and thousands more than that if that's what they're admitting to. There is no question we need to pass the Save America Act, because anytime an illegal alien illegally votes in our elections, it disenfranchises an American voter. It cancels out an American voter's votes. The Save America Act voter ID proof of citizenship has the support of over 80% of Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats, a supermajority of minorities, even a supermajority of Black Americans who Democrats claim aren't smart enough to get a voter ID like everyone else, when in reality, Democrats know they want illegal aliens illegally voting in their elections. If they're admitting to 400 illegal aliens casting votes in New Jersey, that could change the outcome of close elections. We've seen elections for members of Congress that have been decided by less than 400 votes. And we know it's a lot more than 400 if that's what they're admitting to. There's no excuse for Republicans. Cancel August recess. Recess is for kids. Again, go to article3project.org and light up both of your home state senators on the action page.
So every day here, we're laying the predicate off of President Trump's speech last week and other things that are coming up, like the New Jersey situation, laying the predicate about how this is not simply relitigating 2020, although we would be the first to say we got to relitigate that. But it's actually about what's going to happen in 2026. Are you open to, if we don't get Save America done, which right now I don't see how the Senate is ever going to cooperate with the president in the House to do it. Are you open to then going to an executive order? I tell you what, don't answer that. I'll come back to you and talk to you after the show. Mike Davis said, no, let's pass Save America. I'm all for passing Save America as long as we can pass it quickly enough to implement it. But I think John Thune and members of the kind of McConnell clique that run the United States Senate are just bound and determined. They don't care what the thunderous applause are in Georgia, because the Georgia establishment, or Brian Kemp and those guys, could care less. And that is a reflection of the type of thinking that's in the United States Senate. Mike Davis, one more time, what are your coordinates on your social media?
Article3project.org. Donate, follow us on social. Action is the War Room Posse superpower light. We have two action items. Confirm Todd Blanche is the next AG. Contact both of your senators on that. And then pass the Save America Act. Contact both of your senators on that as well. It's very easy to do. It takes 2 minutes. They'll do patch-through phone calls to both of your senators with bullet points, emails that we write for you, and social media posts. So go on and light up both of your senators on Todd Blanche and Save America.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. They're also, Jay Clayton, because their number one priority is to get Pulte out of there. They got to get Pulte out of there because Pulte's getting to the bottom of a lot of things. right? And they got to have him at the intelligence apparatus that one of the major pillars that control this country, because they have sovereignty. We don't. The parties come together. They can't approve anybody else President Trump's got. You got all these ambassadors. You got Cornyn sitting there going, unless I get more funding for AIDS for Africa. Yes, President Trump's greatest ally, according to him, best friend, according to him, is now he's saying, well, maybe we got enough, etc. But anybody President Trump wants to get confirmed, oh no, that's too big a problem, like Todd Blanche. But Jay Clayton can be there tomorrow. They'll rush that because they got to get Pulte out. allfamilypharmacy.com/Bannon, and that's promo Bannon10. If you want to have medical freedom, true medical freedom, you've got to take on Big Pharma. You see Bobby Kennedy trying to do that every day in the Make America Healthy Again movement. But if you individually want medical freedom, you have to take on the drug distribution companies and the big pharmaceutical companies. You do that with allfamilypharmacy.com. Promo code Bannon10. You get 10% off. Most importantly, you can talk to Michael Kunstler and his team about how they can give you medical freedom in your prescriptions. Short commercial break. Back in a moment.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, birchgold.com/Bannon, end of the dollar empire. Learn why the dollar's been the bulwark of the world's financial system since Bretton Woods after World War II. The financial system, the economic system was rebuilt around globalism, but the dollar was the prime reserve currency, replaced the British pound. You need to know this. Why? Because of what's happening today. So make sure you go to birchgold.com/Bannon. We got the 9th free installment coming out. You got 8 now. That'll be enough to immerse yourself. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team about gold as a hedge, something you might need with the turbulence we're seeing in capital markets. Eric Bolling, you're at a conference. I want to thank you for stepping away and joining us this morning. The Houthis are saying they're all in blocking the Red Sea and the transits up to the Suez Canal. President Trump put out Truth Social, if you're going to do that, I'm going to pound Iran for every ship that you take out, and then I'm going to come and pound you. This war is expanding, and it's expanding in its intensity around global shipping and the oil markets, sir.
You're 100% right. Thank you, Stephen, brother, from a different mother. I'm in Vegas talking money, talking inflation. Tell you exactly what happened. The Houthis fired on 2 Saudi ships. Now, that is big, big news. You're talking Saudi, UAE, to the point where the disruption, there are ships right now, vessels on the water right now, rerouting around the Red Sea, rerouting away from the Gulf of the Strait of Hormuz, down to the southern tip of Africa, Cape of Good Hope. That's massive additional transportation costs to every single barrel. On top of that, the warning that this thing could expand is driving prices up. North Sea Brent up $7 a barrel today, based on the Houthis attacking actual vessels, which fired on them, and Trump saying we will retaliate with force on Iran. It sparked up real fast, Steve. I mean, we're talking $67 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate like 10 days ago, up to $92, maybe $93 a barrel today. So I'm here talking inflation to the money show, and I tell them the only thing you need to understand about making money, trading on the stock market, Wall Street, the economy, watch oil prices. When oil prices go down, it's good. It's wind in the sails of the economy. Problem is, it went down. We had a good inflation number last month, and now we're bouncing right back. $4.09 a gallon today, Steve. $4.09 a gallon today for gasoline, on its way to $4.50 and $5. I'm not panicking. I'm just bringing you what's happening.
No. You warned about this. People say, you warned about this because you know markets. Let me ask you, the money show is a serious thing. You've got people like yourself and some of the Wall Street hedge funds, top traders on Wall Street come, but the crowd is kind of the war room posse for money. I mean, these people are in it. It's more than a hobby. So talk to me, what's the buzz? That here you have both the working class, middle class, entrepreneurial base of, I want to make money. I want to learn about capital markets. I want to learn how to invest. I want to be a capitalist. And you've got the smartest guys in the country talking to them. What is the buzz out there at the money show?
This is the first, I've been doing the money show for 10 years. This is the first time I sense confusion. When confusion brings fear, especially when it has to do with your money. Show of hands, 5 years ago, how many people are day traders? 70% of the room. My speech yesterday keynoted, how many people are day traders? One hand out of several hundred put his hand up. How many people are intermediate? Some. Most people are looking longer term. They're fearful. Talked to a guy and he said, Bolling, I most fear losing what I've worked my whole life earning, or losing the value of it, and that means inflation. And we just did Steve, 30-year treasuries are now 5.2%. The 10-year, we always talk about the 10-year because everyone borrows on credit card debt, 4.7%. Anything above 4 or 5 is alarming. Inflation is here. It's going to get bad. And again, no knock on Trump. What the hell are we doing in there? Let's just get out. They're never going to turn around and love us. We can't regime change. We have so many problems here. We are going to have a huge problem if we don't hold the midterms. For a while, it looked like it was getting a little better. Now, I don't know. At $4.50 a gallon, end of the summer, going into the fall with an election, it's going to be tough. I'm just being honest. I don't want to yell into
but help the audience
echo
out here.
chamber.
But help help the audience out, because I'm going to get Cortez. We're going to talk about the bond market tomorrow. All this concern about the head of the Federal Reserve and the governors of the Federal Reserve and Powell, these guys raising interest rates, they're going up because in the free market of the bid and the ask on government securities, with the amount of debt we're having, right, and the prospects, to refinance the debt of $39 trillion or $40 trillion, the 1/3 of it, we're having to pay higher prices. That's where you're getting higher interest rates in the 10-year, in the 30-year. It's happening, and some of these are pretty explosive, are they not?
Oh, yes, it's that, Steve. So there's a fear that look, we service the debt to the tune of $1 trillion. Or the interest on the debt, $1 trillion. That's bigger than most world economies, just to pay the interest, not to pay down the debt. So we're borrowing money to pay down the interest on the money we've already borrowed. It's insane. Now, the rates are going up for nervousness, geopolitical risks, but mostly inflation. People are now seeing this is going to be an inflation animal that's coming at us right now. Fuel, energy, so important to the economy. It's the literal driver of inflation. It's going higher. And when inflation goes up, you can't lower interest rates. You have to raise interest rates to tame inflation. That's what Powell got wrong during Joe Biden's term. He let inflation rise 6, 7, 8, and not until it was almost 10%. Did he start raising rates to tame the inflation down? He waited too long. Warsh has said, we're not giving forward guidance. Kevin Warsh did something very smart. A lot of people trade on what happened last month. Oh, the CPI was good last month, 3.5%, 4%, whatever. Kevin Warsh said that most people, smart people, trade on what's happening next. I don't care what happened yesterday. I want to hear what happens next. Warsh said the Fed will no longer give you prospects for the upcoming quarter or the upcoming year, which means they're not going to show you their hand. They're just going to decide based on the numbers. That is very fascinating. That's a big change.
Eric, can you hang on for 1 second? I know you got a bolt. We're going to go to the White House also with the press conference, but I got to ask you about the implosion over SpaceX, because now that's part of the index. It affects everybody. Just hang on for 1 second. Also, Neil McCabe may have to leave us and get into the press briefing room for the start of this, but we're going to try to get him also. You just heard it right there. Now more than ever, you should understand it's not about just buying gold. It's about understanding the process, okay? This is what Birch Gold offers you. This is the reason we partnered for them for 5 years when gold was, $1,100 an ounce. Because we knew that we're going to be very tough geopolitical times ahead and financial times ahead, because Biden was out of control and an illegitimate president because they stole the 2020 election. Never forget that. Birchgold.com, promo code Bannon. Go check it out today. You get the end of the dollar empire, or you just text Bannon at 989898. Find out why gold has been a hedge against times of turbulence, like Bolling just said. Short break. Back in the War Room in a moment.